Oof, this one is gonna hurt. So, today we have some planned changes released by Blizzard for 10.0.7. The changes are mostly nerfs, actually. What is going to take the center of attention for today are the nerfs to Preservation Evoker, followed by the question mark nerf to Guardian Druid, and then a slight rework to the here is your free raid slot mandatory raid aura of Paladin. So let's start with the biggest and baddest and meanest of the changes, which are the nerfs to Preservation Evoker. Preservation Evoker has received a few nerfs already by Blizzard, but none of them were particularly, big or impactful. What is going to be impactful, however, is what is going to come in 10.0.7, because the nerfs are as follows. Temporal anomaly absorption value is reduced by 20%, and Resonating Sphere now applies Echo to the first 4 allies hit instead of 6. These two nerfs are very, very big. Okay, the first nerf is passable. Temporal anomaly value reduced by 20% is going to amount to 3-ish% less healing done. So it's not the end of the world. Also, more importantly, doesn't change the way you play the spec. What is much more impactful, however, is the nerf to Resonating Sphere, which is the talent you always take in pretty much all activities, which is going to turn your temporal anomaly ball, your orb, into an echo delivery service to 6 players. Now it's only 4. This is very, very big, because temporal anomaly is the main way you are going to apply echo to your raid. These are your average casts of echo throughout a fight, which is 45, and then these are your average casts of temporal anomaly. So temporal anomaly, each cast applies 6 echoes, which means in here you have roughly 340 echoes applied by temporal anomaly versus the 45 casted by yourself. Not to mention also the temporal anomalies replicated by stasis, so applying even more echoes that way. So basically 90-ish% of the echoes you apply are done so by temporal anomaly. And now temporal anomaly only applies 4 of them instead of 6. Which is a flat 33% nerf to the amount of echoes you're gonna get out from temporal anomaly, and somewhat of a 25-ish, a little bit above 25% nerf to the overall number of echoes you can get out throughout a fight. This is of course bad, because the current build evokers use is done through using echoes to apply most of your healing. If it's Verdant Embrace with Lifebind, is done through with echoes. If it's done by using Verdant Embrace on yourself and then casting an empowered Dream Breath, is done so by spreading that Dream Breath through multiple players with echo, or simply by spreading Reversion with your echo. So basically all of your large, wide AoE is done with the help of echo. And now this temporal anomaly talent will be severely impaired in the amount of echoes you can get out. Between the 3% healing nerf to temporal anomaly and this nerf, it's already expected that this is going to be above a 10% healing nerf to Preservation Evoker, on top of the 5% healing nerf they received a couple of weeks ago as well. So the amount of I guess reining in, the amount of nerfing given to Preservation Evoker does not seem that bad compared to the power of the other healers. Where I think the change is wrong is in the fact that it changes your playstyle. It changes the core, one of your core abilities, and how it functions. It would have been much better for the spec if you simply nerfed the healing of Dream Breath, if you simply nerfed the healing of Reversion. This way, you could have kept playing like you currently are, you could have kept using the abilities as you currently have been, but they just heal for less. Whereas this change is a little bit worse for your playstyle. That's why I don't think it's that good of an angle for Blizzard to go for if they had in mind to nerf Preservation Evoker. Now, on the bright side for the spec, this is not really going to affect their power, their level in Mythic Plus, because none of these two things are too powerful or too needed in Mythic Plus, since you only have 5 players in Mythic Plus and not 20. You don't need that many echoes to be spread throughout the raid in Mythic Plus. So not too much should change there. The other nerf is to Guardian Druid. This one, of course, is quite the meme, given that Guardian Druid, unlike Preservation Evoker, is not exactly a meta spec. Thorns of Iron has been redesigned. When you cast Iron Fur, also deal physical damage equal to 30% of your armor, split amongst enemies within 12 yards, damage reduced above 4 applications. What is the problem with this? The problem was there was a new resurging type of build for Guardian Druid, which made you take every possible armor stacking and power increase to your Iron Fur, so that you would basically spam Iron Fur non-stop and benefit from Thorns of Iron AoE damage, thanks to the physical damage, basically reflect of your armor. So the bigger, the chunkier, the meatier you can make your armor with Iron Fur, the more damage you are going to do with Thorns of Iron. This build, as I said, was quite the meme. It basically pushed you to something like 100 to 120 actions per minute. You basically had to bind Iron Fur on every one of your buttons. You had to bind Iron Fur to your mouse wheel and basically just perma scroll the mouse wheel because of how many times you had to refresh your Iron Fur. But now, with the change that the damage doesn't scale nearly as well past 4 applications, it is going to effectively kill this build. On one hand, it is of course understandable for Blizzard to be wanting to kill off immediately meme builds or just unhealthy playstyle builds, right? It makes sense. It of course makes a little bit less sense when you look at the current state of Guardian Druid and all of its problems. It would have felt, of course, much less bad and still very promising for Guardian if they had lined up a type of rework to the same level that Paladin, and in particular Retribution Paladin, is getting, which is not something that Guardian is receiving, or at the very least for now, doesn't seem like Guardian is going to receive any in 10.0.7, so that's why it feels a little bit sad to find out that even something that might have spawned something a little bit more interesting for Guardian gets immediately extinguished by Blizzard right on its birth. That is a little bit sad for the spec, but then again, pretty much everything since the start of this expansion has been sad for the spec, so I guess they are keeping in line with their current situation. The last thing worth touching on as the announcements from Blizzard for 10.0.7 was the redesign of Retribution Aura. As you know, or if you don't, you're about to discover it now, Blizzard is planning to give Paladin a mandatory raid buff so that they will have an extra mandatory raid spot in 10.0.7. Retribution Aura used to give all of your raid members 5% damage and 5% healing for 10 seconds if one of your raid members took 50% of damage in health with a 30-second cooldown. This effectively amounted to a 1.6% raid damage and raid healing on average, which is, a mandatory buff. It's a very good buff. Blizzard has slightly changed how Retribution Aura works. Now, first of all, to proc this, you don't need to take 50% of your health in damage, but just 30% of your health in damage, so it's much more easy to proc constantly. The change now also is, instead of gaining 5% damage and healing for 10 seconds, you're gaining 5% damage and healing decaying, and this cannot occur within 30 seconds of the aura being applied. This is likely to prevent aura stance dancing, aura changing. For example, the Red Paladin has this aura up, procs this aura starts to decay in the damage buff you gain, and then the Holy Paladin, who had Devotion Aura, changes to Retribution Aura so that someone takes 30% health in damage, the Holy Paladin procs Retribution Aura and refreshes the damage all the way back up to 5%, because it was decaying to 4, to 3, to 2, and thanks to the Holy Paladin switching his aura to Retribution Aura, it can refresh it up to the max number, to the 5%. This change, making it so that this aura cannot occur within 30 seconds of the aura being applied, prevents this type of aura stance dancing, basically. So Blizzard is trying to prevent all of this from happening. These three are the main changes happening for the last round of communication from Blizzard. Now, besides this last part, we have gone through all of the meaningful changes for 10.0.7. Eventually, we will group all of the planned changes for 10.0.7 whenever the patch is about to go live. But for now, this was the ensemble of the more important changes in this week's build of 10.0.7. With this communication out of the way, I'm going to leave you to the rest of your Thursday. Thanks, of course, as usual, to all of the dear Patreon supporters for the contribution and the help to the growth of this channel. You can still support the channel in 3 ways. Liking and commenting down below on this video, subscribing to the channel itself are good enough ways to support for free. You can also support by following me over on Twitter, as well as following me on my stream over at Twitch. Those are also still 3 ways to support. With this out of the way, thank you guys again for watching. See you guys soon, and in the meantime, I have been busy, my mind has been somewhere else, and it's 28 hours since the last time I ate. I'm hungry.